All right, here we go. So I'm going to go through the paper and what's due this weekend, and then you guys can just ask me questions about, what didn't make sense, or even stop me as I'm explaining, and I will try to explain it some more, okay? So I'm going to bring up the Module 6 paper, which is what we're working towards. One thing I do want to say, and it doesn't happen all that often, but honestly, if you were to turn in a rough draft that was just like, wow, this would be an A paper for the final, if I got it, I'm going to tell you, you're done. Like, you don't have to keep working on this paper just for the sake of working on the paper. So if you put a lot of effort into your rough draft and it's solid, and I don't think, if it's already an A paper, I'm not going to make you do more work on it. Okay. But if there is something that I think, oh, we need a little bit of work here, I will tell you what sections to work on. And I'll, if necessary, I'll even say, hey, let's pop into a Zoom, let's talk about it, do those things with it. As far as the rough draft, I mean, on the basic level, I'm just looking for whatever you can give me. If you're having a really hard week and you can't get it all done, that's okay. Send me what you can. If you've got time this week and you can really invest in it, hey, you might be done with the assignment, So just know there's that range. It's really meant to be a support to you, that I can give you some feedback and let you know where you are in the process. Okay, that makes sense?
Yes, good to know.
Yes, because I know not every faculty member takes it that way. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen with you guys now. So this is the paper that we're working on this week, right? And I am not a bean counter. I don't count pages, right? But if you send me a paper that's 20 pages long, I'm gonna be like, okay, this needs to be a little more concise. So don't put fluff in it. I am not a fan of fluff. I'm not a fan of just writing stuff to write stuff, right? So if you can do it in 8 pages and it's solid, whoa, good to you, high five, okay? So don't feel like you just have to fill in space. Not helpful to you or to me, okay? So here's how I envision the paper. Not saying this is the only way to do the paper, but this is how I envision it. In any APA paper, APA formatted paper, when you start writing that paper, the first paragraph is an orientation to the paper. So it really is, for the purpose of this integrative theory and case study paper, I'm going to be looking at the following character. And you're going to cite where that character's from, whether it's a book, whether it's a film, whether it's a, figure like President Trump or somebody, you're going to cite, some way that you know about this person. Where did you get your biographical information about the person? And then you're going to say, and I'm going to apply the following theories to this case. Boom and boom. Done. That's your first, you're done. Congratulations. No need to put any more in it. Then you're going to have case summary or case whatever you want to call it, okay? And then you'll have a couple of paragraphs about your case. Now, this is the piece where students usually get a little bit off. This is an application of your theory. So think about the 2 theories that you've chosen for your paper and I've approved for your paper. And you need to think about, if I was practicing, let's say we do rational emotive behavioral therapy and Gestalt, okay? I'm going to need to think about, as a rational emotive behavioral therapist, what information would I need to know about the client to be able to help them, okay? From a Gestalt perspective, as a Gestalt therapist, what information would I need to know about this person in order to be able to serve them through Gestalt therapy? Your case summary needs to be that information, not everything that's available on the person. Okay, so really have a theoretical lens on when you're thinking about that case. Okay, I don't want you to copy a description from the internet or from IMDb if you're doing a movie. I really want you to think through, as a therapist coming from these 2 perspectives, what would be of most interest to me? What would be the things that I would be asking about and wanting to know about in the intake? Okay, write your case study. If you're using a book or a movie, you may have to elaborate a little bit more than what was in the movie. So as long as it makes sense and you're not taking it off in a whole new plot, right? It's okay for you to elaborate a bit to help you be able to apply the theory. Okay, so just don't go on a new plot line, right? Stay within what seems realistic for what was described in the movie or in the book. So that's 2 paragraphs. I'm talking 2, maybe 3 paragraphs. Okay, and you're done with the case study part. Now we're moving to theory. I see that you can do this two ways. The first way that comes to mind to me is do theoretical orientation, and then you would have these areas right here that we have right here, okay? The first being key concepts. So you would do theoretical orientation as your centered heading, right? Your level 1 heading, and then you would have key concepts to the left as a subheading. And then you might, if I were doing REBT, my first paragraph would be, what are the key concepts of REBT that I can apply to this case? My second paragraph would be, what are the key concepts of Gestalt that I can apply to this case? If you find that you have a sentence that just talks about the theory and not the case, take it out, okay? Everything that you write needs to be applying the theory to the case. You do not need to educate me about the theory. I know these theories, okay? So don't tell me what the theory says. Show me how to use the theory, okay? So REBT, for example, let me see if I can think of a popular, I'm trying to think of somebody that we would all know. Who comes to mind? Well, let's use President Trump. Not to be political, so all politics aside, I'll just use President Trump, okay? So rational motive theory. He had a town hall last night that didn't go so well for him, all right? And so he may be having some irrational thoughts about that town hall, like it's, you know, ABC's fault, it's everybody else's fault, it's my aide's fault because they didn't pick the right people to ask questions, right? So he could be having some of those beliefs. So in my application of key concepts using REBT, I would say I would explore President Trump's emotions that he's experiencing after the town hall, and I would examine the activating event that led to that, and then explore the irrational beliefs that are connected to that activating event that have led to how he's feeling. Do you see? So I'm using the language of the theory, and I'm applying that concept to how I would be using it with that client if I was using that theory. That makes sense?
Okay.
Okay. And do you need to do every key concept that's known to that theory? Absolutely not. Okay. If you apply, I'd say 3 to 5 concepts solidly, you're good. All right. So just look for 3 to 5 key concepts for your first theory and for your second theory. Okay. Now, another way you might do it is you might just do one theory through all of these things and then do the second theory through all of these things. So I don't care how you organize it, just make sure it's organized, right? It could either be both theories under each subheading, or you could do all of the subheadings for one and then all the subheadings for a second one, right? When you write, when you look at the view of your role as a counselor, remember it's from the lens of that theory. So for the first theory, what would your role as the counselor for this client look like, right? And you're supporting your points as you're going through this. This is where those primary sources are going to come to hand, the journal articles you're using. What I want you to stay away from are the textbooks and things like Wikipedia, and even Good Therapy. Good Therapy is great. It's a wonderful resource to go to figure out where to go next, but that's not a primary source. A primary source is, you know, an article that Ellis wrote or one of his proteges wrote, right? Or if you're using cognitive theory, something that Julia Beck wrote, something Gestalt Laura Pearls wrote, or one of her proteges. You know, so something that's writing about research or conceptual paper about that theory, okay? Or a text, you know, it could be a book that was written about the theory. Like I think about Erickson and developmental. Erickson has so many books, okay? And you don't need to read the whole book. You might just use a chapter in that book, right? So, but just know that you need to try to use as much as you can primary sources to support your points as you're going through. One of the common errors that I have been seeing is people have been putting citations at the end of paragraphs. That only cites the last sentence. So make sure that when you use a source that you cite it. And the other thing is that graduate level work, you don't need to use direct quotes. Okay, direct quotes show us that you're capable of copying somebody else's words. Great job. Okay, it does not help me understand that you know what you're doing as a therapist. All right, so I need you to take other people's stuff, think about it, and wonder how you would use it with a client. And then you cite their work because that's where you learned how to do it, but you don't copy what they said. Okay, so make sure you're demonstrating what you've done. Christina?
With APA, how would you cite, like if I've watched 5 Walt Disney biographies and I'm pulling them all together, how would I cite all 5 in that paragraph? Or I just cite it like,
Right, you can use what's called a serial citation. So a serial citation, you would have each of the 5 listed out. Now, in that case, Christina, if throughout the rest of the paragraph you're using the same sources, you don't need to keep giving that huge long serial citation. It's understood by the way that you're writing it, right? That that's the source, like in your case study. But let's say one was directed by Alberto, one was last name, and then one was done by Thomason. Then you would do parentheses, Alberto, comma, 2009, semicolon, Thompson, comma, 2012, into parentheses, and put your period after that citation. Does that help?
yeah, and where would the best place to put? So I've always done just like, I've done research in general, and then I cite everything at the end in like a citation page, but I've never really cited inside.
Yeah, these are called in-text citations. So in APA format, when you use a source, okay, you want to put, you either put the source as the subject, like Thompson, parentheses, 2009, into parentheses, indicated in his documentary of Walt Disney that Walt Disney grew up without a mother. Okay. Or I could say Walt Disney grew up without a mother, parentheses, Thompson, comma, 2012, parentheses, in period.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yep. There's going to be a lot of citations.
And with those serial citations, you alphabetize those within the parentheses by first author.
Okay. And is Al, that's what I've been reading, is Al?
I love Purdue Al, but I will tell you that with the 7th edition, APA Style has done an amazing job with some support services. So if you haven't checked out APA Style yet, I would definitely look at that. Tonight, when I post this and in my announcement for this week, I'm going to also give you a link to the APA Style tutorial for APA. I strongly recommend you guys do it. Like, I went through it to kind of just refamiliarize myself with 7th edition, and I found it really helpful.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go back to, so the view, one other one I want to really stress is the therapeutic goals. The therapeutic goals, when I read your goal, if I've read nothing else of your paper, I should know what theory, or have a good idea what theory you're using based off the goals that you would set with the client. Right? If I'm doing REBT, rational emotive behavioral therapy, I'm not going to have just a purely behavioral goal. I'm not going to have a, we're going to explore the client's id, right? Because those aren't related to that theory. It's going to be more like, client will explore irrational thoughts around town hall, or something like that. It's going to be very cognitive behavioral, and it's going to be connected to the theory. With the therapeutic goals, you literally can just say, from the, rational emotive behavioral theory perspective, the following would be potential goals I might set with the client. 3 to 5 goals. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I mean, literally 3 goals is more than enough. Okay. And then you would say, from the Gestalt perspective, these would be the, therapeutic goals that I might do with this client, and list your goals. Okay. And so, and when you do, the other ones all kind of follow the same process. The other one I would want to mention is that this says any ethical and or cultural consideration. So you can do either, or you can do both. All right. But for both theories, I need to see something. Okay. So under that, I need to see an ethical cultural for the first one, or an and or ethical cultural for the second one. When you cite ethics, make sure you're citing the ACA code. Okay. Don't cite a book about the ethics. That's a secondary source. All right. I need you to get familiar and be comfortable going to the ACA code. And again, you're not going to quote the standard. You're going to look at that and you're going to say, like one of the things that is said in the ACA code is that clients need to have autonomy, right? They have autonomy. It's in our preface of our ACA code, which you can actually use as your ethical consideration. And with autonomy, it says that a client has the right to choose what they do or don't do in therapy. So if I'm going to do an intervention, like an empty chair, say, with my client, I need to give them the ability to do it or not do it. I need to support client autonomy in that process. That would be an ethical consideration, and I would cite the ACA code, parentheses, ACA, comma, 2014, comma, preface, into parentheses. And then in my reference list, ACA, 2014, ACA Code of Ethics, Alexandria, Virginia, boom, done. You don't have to put the location anymore. I would just put author because the ACA is the one who wrote it. Okay. All right. What questions do you guys have after kind of hearing that? Anything else?
Two things came up for me. One, when you were talking about the therapeutic goals. So we're talking about those goals, and you mentioned listing the goals after we introduce, you know, in theory X, these are the goals. When you say list, is it ever appropriate for us to use any kind of bullet pointing or anything?
Good question. Great question. So in APA format, if the list comes below a sentence, like, you know, the following are the therapeutic goals, colon, and then I drop down, right? Then it's going to be a numeric list. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I have a list that I want to seriate, which is putting letters or numbers to it within a sentence, like the following 5 points are important to consider when thinking about this case. A, lowercase a, parentheses, lowercase a, in parentheses, the first point, comma. So you use lowercase letters when you do it within a sentence.
Okay, gotcha. And then, oh, my other question. If, let's say that we got a few pages done for our paper and turned it in, we knew we needed to keep working on it. Would you consider reviewing our paper any other time between now and final submission?
I will not, but I will happily volunteer Nathaniel.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, no, just because, I mean, literally I have 4 sections, so I have 45 students. So it would be, I would have to be willing to do it for anybody and everybody, and I just don't have the bandwidth for that. But Nathaniel, I'm sure he would be happy to help some too.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions come up for you guys?
Are you going to post possibly like an old outline that we can look at as a guideline?
What do you mean as far like a template?
Yeah, like a template.
I mean, I can certainly do a template for you guys. I mean, it's not hard for me to do that like I did for something else I did. So yeah, I can, for the proposal. I did that for the proposal. So yeah, I can do that. No, I will say APA 7th edition has like a bunch of other information that I didn't include on the title page, like my name, the class name. You can add those if you want, but I don't need them. Like I'm fine with just your title, your name, and William and Mary. That's to me simple and to the point. You know, I know otherwise what class and whatnot, but if you want to add all the rest of it, you can. But I'll just do a template. You know, I'll probably do it in the sense of like first theory all the way through this list, second theory all the way through this list, because that would be how I would write it.
And I know this sounds like a silly question, but when you say 10 pages, is that including your title and reference page?
It's not a silly question. It's a really good question. Again, I'm not going to count the pages, Christina. I am much more interested in you just answering and responding to these things. So I'm not going to be counting, but no, it doesn't usually include the title and the reference. Okay. But again, I am not a page counter.
And where's the best place to find goals outside of our book?
Really, it's about you thinking about how the theory would be used. So it is very much new knowledge that you would be generating. Now, Yeah, I mean, it really is new knowledge. So just know that I know this is kind of your first stab at that. So I'm not looking for perfection. What I'm looking for is that whatever you write can be measured and that it is connected to the theory. Those would be the two big things. As you move through the program, we're going to be talking to you more and more about SMART goals. And those are very specific style of goals that you have to write that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic. But we're not doing that for here. Right now, I just want you to make an attempt at trying to write something that the client would want to accomplish that's connected to the theory. Okay. All right. Anything else? You guys are asking great questions.
Well, I have a question, but not related to the.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. Rebecca, anything else about this paper?
Nope, this was great. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you guys for helping me out. Like, I love it when I can, like, you know, take care of, help support you guys.